Yeah, so perks of Zoom is MFA doesn't have to do her third-party app recording thing anymore.
There you go.
Awesome. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, I actually had a really insanely productive day, so I'm in a good mood.
Love that. Well, I just had a few margaritas because it's Taco Tuesday and they're $2.
There you go.
So
You're also in a good mood.
I came in with the right vibe for this meeting. So since we've already taken up some time just for technical issues, I wanted to go ahead and get us started. Did Michael have to leave? Is he still?
He's hanging around, but I think he's just listening.
Yeah, okay. So first, I just want to mention that our service for Q3 is going on until the end of this month. So that is the Share the Love service project. And if you haven't yet decided on what your service should be for this quarter, then I just want to highlight something special that Wes has been working on. So Wes, I want to give you the floor just for a little bit to talk about the things that you've been working on with the Rotary Club in Poland.
All right. I reached out through the club locator to Rotary clubs in Poland, in a certain town about the size of Tyler, I think, in western Poland. So maybe an hour and a half or 2 hours west of Warsaw, and then therefore farther from the Ukrainian border. And as you know, something on the order of 2 million Ukrainians have rushed over into Poland. And so Rotarians, as many other Poles are doing now, are helping out of their own pocket with housing and food and fuel and everything else they need. And so I've had some communication with one of the Rotary clubs. There are 3 in this town. They're small clubs like ours, about 20 members each. And we discussed various options. The most practical option is money. And what I think we can do, there's several things we can do. The practical thing with money is that we raise money among ourselves and among anybody else and send it to this particular Rotary Club, and they will take care of it. And Rotary clubs do this all the time. If you're new to Rotary, we give money hand to hand, and that way we know the money is well managed and doesn't go astray. I'm committing to 500. I'll write the first 500. I think we could raise probably 1,500 tonight. If everybody kicked in 100 and some of our newer members, maybe 50, I think we could come up with 1,000 or 1,500 this evening. And now we need to figure out how do we get the money to Poland. I have wiring instructions to a bank. They need to get it into a bank, so we can put it into PayPal. We can all put it into PayPal, but eventually it's got to be flipped into a bank account at some point. Either we send it PayPal account to their PayPal account if they have one, or we put it into our club bank account and we wire it to their account. Or if necessary, I have a trust account and I can wire it from Southside directly to the Poland account. However the club chooses to do that. But if we put it in the club account, we get credit for this in a way as a club activity. Now, if there's a consensus that we do this all on our own as our quarterly project, I'm all game for that. It doesn't really change anything. The money will still get to the right place, and I can provide the links. Now, so money is number 1. 2, there is a concert apparently on the 17th. I think I've got the link. If I haven't given it to you, I'll give it to you shortly. But they're having a benefit concert in Poland, and you can subscribe to that and donate some dollars or euros, and they will gladly apply that to Ukrainian effort. Third is we can have a speaker. I'm trying to arrange a speaker from this Poland club to speak to our club. We have to work out the logistics of that, but have someone speak and talk about what the circumstances are in their city, how their Rotary Club is responding, and what others can do to assist. I think that would be very helpful. And then I guess the fourth thing is our club can just make a stand for this. I just put a link in the chat. I think you may, if it opens up, it's a post. I made some posts for our club to support Ukraine or whatever that value has in the public arena. And so that's it, subject to your questions.
I think this is a really awesome project, Wes, and I really appreciate you putting it together, because I think a lot of us, and me specifically, I want to donate knowing what I'm donating to specifically, rather than donating to a large charity that I don't know exactly what my money is going to. And in this situation, it's an opportunity for us to donate our money directly to a Rotary Club in Poland whose members are actively hosting refugees from Ukraine. And they also sent a message recently talking about how if there is an influx of money, then the money can go towards acclimating them into Polish society there. So big thanks to you. And of course, once we get all of these details together and once we form our plan on what exactly we're going to do, I'm sure you'll see a social media post, which Wes has already created. You'll see a link where you can directly donate or share with your friends to directly donate to that Rotary Club in Poland. And then we'll work with Clayton and how to get that money transferred, either from our club or from Wes's account. But on that note, Clayton was unable to be here today, but he did want me to mention that dues were due on March 5th. So if you haven't yet paid your dues, check your email. I went in today and paid mine late. I was able to just search for Rotary and it was like the 5th email that popped up. So search your emails and to get those dues paid. It's what supports our club and helps us keep running.
Now, to be more accurate, Clayton was not unavailable. He was on a beach in Florida. Let's not get carried away, okay?
Calling him out.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I never did that when I was in law school. I was,
I could be on a beach in Florida right now, too. Just saying.
I just want to quickly say, Sarah said it very well. Thank you, Wes, for putting this together. And if we can, I don't know how soon we can make the contributions, but as soon as possible, I think would be best. And I definitely will contribute at least $100 as soon as everything's available.
Dana, what is your ethnic background, your grandparents?
My grandparents, well, I'm Jewish, and a lot of my family is from Central and Eastern Europe. So I actually have people in my family that were from Ukraine, from Poland, from Russia. So I've been following it. I mean, the whole world's following it closely, but I've been following it closely. And also just from a perspective of watching what's happened. You know, I'm a member of other Jewish organizations and just watching what they're doing on the ground. And I can share some statistics, but it's just been unbelievable. Just the tragedy that's happening over in Ukraine is just, I just think of like unreal proportions that, you know, anything we can do would be helpful. But yeah, I feel like I have a special, you know, just a strong tie to that just from my family heritage. And I will just say too that any amount helps. If it can't be $50, if it's $25, anything that you can do helps. And I think it's really remarkable that our club can do this together as a project. So thank you.
Elizabeth, do you by any chance happen to have like the PayPal.me link for our account? I
would have to look. I know I don't actually have access to sign into the accounts anymore.
Sounds like we've got folks that might be wanting to donate already.
Let me see what I can dig up.
Like, it would be easy to put that in chat.
Yeah. While Elizabeth does that, any other messages from our board members? I don't think that we had anything else. All right. So let's jump right into our guest speaker, who some of us know and love. And, you know, before we do that, let's quickly introduce one of our guests that's joined us today, Katie. Katie you can just briefly introduce yourself.
Oh, hi. I'm Katie. Used to be a Guvernator, now I'm a Johnson. I'm David's sister. I forgot my Ryland name a long time ago. Tiny, I think? No, that's somebody else. Was I Zip? Was it? Is that right, Michael?
Tiny was your sister, right?
I remember
No, Tiny was not. I'm
Keebler
not even
first.
related to Tiny at all. Keebler is my sister.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I'm not a return Riley kid. My siblings were. So that's
wow,
me.
you guys all look the same.
Don't all age as nicely as David does.
Okay, well, we'll jump right into it then. I'm just going to give a brief introduction for David. He's been one of my best friends for about 15 years. And he's from Marshall, Texas. He graduated from Texas A&M, class of 2013, with industrial engineering degree, and he currently lives in Denver, Colorado. So David is here to speak to us about the oil industry and fracking and how it affects our daily lives. So David, I'll let you get into it.
Thanks, Sarah. I'm gonna try and share my screen real fast. This is disabled participant screen sharing, so I'm gonna need some permissions.
Ooh, are we able to give him access? I can see the green share.
Yes. This is the host.
Anybody? Okay, Delane says 1 minute. Delane, you're on mute.
Try it now. I think I fixed it.
Okay, hold on. Oh, there we go. How's that?
I can see it.
Cool. Let me make sure. Cool. Sweet. Yeah, my name is David Guvernator. Thanks for the introduction, Sarah. This presentation is just basically going to be about what I know about oil and gas and my part in that industry. I'll try to keep it interesting and not too dry. A little bit about me, like Sarah said, I went to Texas A&M, class 13. I was in the Corps of Cadets. If you know about the Dixie Chicken, I used to work there, so that was fun. How I got into oil and gas is, to help pay for school. So every summer I would go out and I'd work on drilling rigs, and I was like lower than whale shit at the bottom of the deepest ocean. Like I literally started at the very, very bottom as a roughneck. Everyone hated me because I had all my teeth. So it was a really humbling experience, but I got to really learn this industry, like I said, from the bottom up. And then I became an engineer with Technip FMC shortly thereafter. Technically a field service engineer, and I've been doing that since 2014. And essentially I do three things. I troubleshoot emergent technical issues. So if anything's really, really bad is happening and a lot of people are very angry and upset, I usually get sent out to talk to the angry people and try to solve the problem. There's about 4 of us that do this in the whole company, and I think we have about 30,000 people. That doesn't mean that I'm special. It just doesn't take a lot of people to cover the whole world because there's only so many bad things happening. So I do that, and then I train our customers how to use our equipment, and I train our technicians how to use our equipment. And as far as the company itself, like we are like the Maserati, Lamborghini of fracking equipment. So we actually make equipment and we provide services for using it. And then companies like Chevron, Shell, Schlumberger, Halliburton, they buy that from us. And so we show them how to use it. So we're very much involved in fracking and drilling. And then also work with research and development. So anytime any new product, like in the top right with the duct tape, that's like a brand new thing. And they sent it out with me, and I was supposed to like test it and see if it sucked. So I do a lot of that, and I spent a lot of time out in the middle of nowhere in miserable places, and I wouldn't change any of it. The picture on the left is me on New Year's Eve this year with my best friend Trey, and we were really happy to be there, as you can see. So yeah, I was in Ryla. I didn't know how many people in this presentation would actually know about Ryla to this extent, or that I would actually know. So yeah, there's some pictures. I didn't include a picture of all you guys. I thought it was just going to be me and Michael. I don't know why. I just didn't know. But yeah, Ryla was awesome. I think I've been working with Ryla since I was a junior. And I haven't missed a year, to my knowledge, at least. So that was a good time. And so everyone else pretty much knows I like to skydive and base jump and go scuba diving. So that's those are my hobbies. So let's get into it, right? We're going to talk about drilling. We're going to talk about well stimulation, which is the political correct way of saying fracking. And we will talk about transporting the resources and how critically important that is, and maybe touch on a little bit of the refinery stuff. So anyway, let's get into it. So we've always heard about shale oil. It's kind of hard. I just wanted to kind of show you guys how boring it looks. It's interesting because when we think of oil, we think of the stuff on the bottom right of your screen, just this black goop that we turn into plastic and gasoline. And up until the late 80s, that's really what we were looking for. We were looking for basically ponds of gas or oil, like you could see in the screen. And it looks like what you see on the right, we were just essentially, you're taking a Coke can and you're sticking a straw in it, just like in that movie with Mark Wahlberg. Like that was a great illustration if you saw Deepwater Horizon. But up into the 80s, we were just looking for ponds of oil underground. And it was just as simple as sticking a steel pipe into that and just sucking it up. But there was a narrative that started running in the 90s and the early 2000s that that we were running out of oil. And turns out we weren't. It was just in a different form of shale, which is this rock that has oil trapped in it. And you can't stick a straw in a rock and get oil out of it, not to my knowledge. So we had to invent well stimulation or fracking, right? We'll get more into. Yeah, so just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what shale oil is. And it's very, very prevalent in North America, specifically in areas like West Texas, South Texas, North Dakota stand, all the shitholes in the country have shale. And part of my language is just there's no other nice way of explaining where oil is found. So this is going to be the toughest slide. So you guys can stick with me through this. I think you'll find it's interesting, but it's a little technical. It's the only one that's really tough to. So I'm going to explain like how we actually drill a well. I think a lot of people think it's super complicated. So I'm going to use what I call the fence post analogy. And I know more than half the people here grew up in a pretty rural areas, and everyone's probably operated a set of post hole diggers. But essentially, just imagine we're going to just dig, a cylindrical hole in the ground, right? And that's what this GIF sort of represents. And hopefully, there's no lag here. But we're just going to get our post hole diggers, and we're going to dig, 3 feet in the ground. You can see the bottom, right? And now we just have this open dirt hole, and we're going to dig through some water, right? A lot of people get really concerned about your groundwater, and rightly so. So we've got to figure out a way to do that. So we're not going to use any chemicals. We're not going to use anything crazy. We're just going to use some water to break up the ground, make it soft. And that's just what we do when we're drilling a well, is we just use water or compressed air as a lubricant as we drill through the groundwater, right? So that we don't contaminate it. Well, the deeper you go, the earth wants to collapse because there's so much pressure and the hole wants to just cave in. So the best thing that we can do to prevent that is we're going to put steel casing in the hole. So we got a 3-foot post hole dug. We're going to just take a steel pipe that we've got we're going to set it inside the hole. And that's going to kind of reinforce it. So if it does collapse, we can't go all the way in. If you think about it, like I said, using the fence post hole analogy, we could still move the pipe around in the hole because we have what's called an annular space. And that is this space between the outside of the steel pipe and the dirt hole, right? So in the screen here, it's going to be like this space right there. So we could still move that pipe around inside the hole. So what do? We got to cement that hole, we got to put cement in that annular space so that we can basically glue our steel pipe to the earth. And a decent illustration, but we're just going to put cement inside of the pipe and use like a syringe and a plunger and use water to pump that cement through. It hits the bottom of our hole, has nowhere else to go, and it has to creep up the outsides of this annular space and functions like glue between the dirt hole and our steel pipe. If you don't understand that, please like unmute yourself and let me know, because if you don't, it's going to be really difficult to sort of appreciate the things I'm going to say next. But it's just very important to understand that we are securing we're lining our hole with steel, right? Give everyone like 2 seconds to unmute and say, hey, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. All right, cool. So that's how we keep any drilling lubricants, any chemicals from getting into your groundwater. And just like Russian dolls, we're going to have at least 3 to 6 layers of steel and cement between your groundwater and the well's borehole into the earth. Sweet. So that's how we maintain the integrity of the holes. This is the best I can do as far as explaining fracking. So we're going to drill down. We're going to go horizontally. We're going to kick off and we're going to go into this shale formation, right? And essentially, this shale is, like I said, it's very hard rock. So we're going to pull our drill pipe out. We're going to run a gun down in there. We're going to perforate the steel with using like shape charges and the rock. And they're going to be about 6 to 8 feet radially from the hole. And then we're going to call up the frac company like, hey man, show up. We need your trucks. Okay. And they're going to show up and they're going to rig up a whole bunch of pumps. And they're going to get sand and water at very high pressures. It's going to go down the hole and create these massive fractures in the shale through which the oil can actually seep into the pipe and go back up to the surface, right? Practice that a lot. Try to get the timing right. So hopefully that explains fracking. It's about as simple as I can make it. But we're literally fracturing the shale rocks that the oil could seep back into the pipe.
How do you take
Sure.
something going up and down and make it go 90 degrees?
That is a great question. It's very hard to explain only because I don't have a dry erase board, but I'll give you my best effort. So a lot of people think, and I'll just get to the next slide so it doesn't distract you. But a lot of people think when you look at a drilling rig and you see the pipe rotating, that we just stick like a drill bit on the end of the pipe and then we spin the pipe and the entire pipe and the drill bit spin at the same speed. And then that's how the drill bit works, because that's how every drill you ever use in our entire lives works, right? There's what's called a small turbine motor at the very bottom of our drill pipe. And when we put fluid in the pipe and it's 5 miles long, right, that there's a massive amount of what we call hydrostatic pressure. You're gonna be sorry you asked. That is in this pipe, just like a straw, right? Like the very bottom of the straw, there's a lot of pressure versus the top. Well, all that pressure is pushing the fluid through this little turbine that goes through a little transmission, and it turns this drill bit really fast at the bottom of the pipe. And then the drill bit is actually canted offset like this. And it's just rotating like this, right? And if we just push the pipe into the ground, it's going to favor that angle. Okay. So what we do is we rotate the pipe from the surface. So it never gets to pick a direction, right? And it's just wallowing out the hole. But as soon as we stop rotating it, it picks a direction and starts to turn, it starts to favor that direction. If we want to go straight, we start turning the pipe again. And then when we go this way, we just turn the pipe and it favors another direction and it just bends. And the pipe, we're talking about a radius of like a 2 mile radius. The pipe is very flexible at that scale, right? I mean, we're not going 90 degrees inside of 100 yards. biblical scales of pipe that's bending here. So yeah, Delaney, I hope that answers your question.
That does. That's awesome. Thank you.
So I just threw this picture out here. You don't have to understand what it is. I think it's when we ask our friends like what they do for a living, what do you do, what's your job? They don't give us some bullshit answer. And with fracking, it's just like, oh, they're just putting sand and water in a hole. Like what is, I don't even know what it looks like. This is what a frack site looks like. It's incredibly simple, despite how complex it looks. You just have a wellhead. So yeah, that's your well. It's super boring. It looks like a Christmas tree. There's nothing sexy about it. You can walk up to it, not even know you're standing next to a 5-mile deep hole. Then you've got a pump. All of these are pumps right here. You can see. And then you've got a manifold. And we just create this pressure. It goes through these little red pipes here into the manifold and then shoots out towards the well and into the ground. And we just have to have a lot of pumps. I think there's about 50,000 horsepower in this little acre. And we pump at like 15,000 PSI, which is about 15,000 times more pressure than is in your shower head. So it's an astronomical amount of fill up a swimming pool, an Olympic sized swimming pool in about 45 seconds. That's how much fluid is going in there. And when we talk about the amount of sand that we put in one well, the average train has about 100 to 120 cars on it. We will put an entire train's worth of sand in one well. So it's about 500 million pounds of sand, ballpark, into the well. So a lot of sand, a lot of water. We just call it putting dirt in a hole. If you want to sound like a cool kid, that's what you say. So here's something we can all kind of relate to. We got pump jacks. We've seen these everywhere. They're actually not an indicator of some sad, desolate, forgotten place. When we see pump jacks, we think, oh, that's an old oil well. It's an artificial lift system. All it does is just bring the oil to the surface, and Sam still doing okay on time. Anyway, long story short, you shake it up. I shake up a Coke can and you put a straw in it, and the Coke shoots out. Well, imagine that the Coke can had no carbonation in it, but you still wanted to get the Coke out. You just stick a straw in there, right? And that's just a very fancy straw. And I'll play this one time just so you guys can see it. But it's just going up and down, just lifting the fluid out of the well. So that's what those are doing. They're just sucking that oil out of the ground. Cool. So that's pretty much most of the technical stuff. We're just going to get into like modern day technology. So this is Artesia, New Mexico on the right, Bakersfield, California on the left. These are all vertical wells, very inefficient use of land. They're just straws going into ponds, right? And it creates the surface into like this hellscape place. And so that's why horizontal drilling is super cool, because we effectively go into the shale area and we're effectively increasing the production area of our little straw by 8 to 10 times by going horizontal into the ground. And then what we can do is, because we can turn our drill bit, we can put 6 or 7 wells on 1 acre and go in 6 and 7 different directions, and taking up 10 times less acreage on the surface and being that much less invasive to the people that have to live next to it, right? And then last, this is a little fun story here. The difference between fracking and drilling. I was going out to a drilling rig because some people were really upset and angry and they wanted to come yell at me or whatever. So I'm about to show up and have a conversation with our customer, but there's these protesters that were standing outside in front of the drilling rig. They're like, hey, stop fracking, which is super cool. I don't mind that. I think it's important to be kind to those people, but they had these fracking signs, but there was no fracking happening. A lot of people see this drilling rig and they think that there's fracking going on there, but that's absolutely not the case at all. So I just told them to come back in 8 weeks and then there'll be a frack site there. It was super cool. They were a little embarrassed, but no worries, right? So the frack site is what you see on the right. And if you ever see a crane out in the middle of nowhere, or driving, visit family or something like that, that's a frack site. So cool. Those are the two differences when you're driving down the road. Let's get into some myths about fracking. A lot of people have seen like sound bites, news clips of people like lighting their water on fire and explaining and saying that fracking content, has made their water flammable. It's actually impossible. What they've done is they've just attached a propane tank to their water line and then open the faucet and then lit the water. And that's a cool hoax that you can debunk for your friends. As far as earthquakes go, we're going to speak about what I know. And this is something that I can't say for sure. I did put a little source in the bottom that sort of branches off in a lot of government funded and also independent third-party research that suggests that fracking itself doesn't cause earthquakes because it's actually 4 to 5 miles under the ground, which is less than like 8% of the depth of the Earth's crust and tectonic plates and stuff. All I know is that the majority of the earthquakes that I'm aware of are caused by wastewater injection, which is not necessarily a product of fracking. It's like industrial wastewater and that type of thing. And they inject their wastewater at very shallow depths, right? And underneath people's like bedrock and that type of thing. So how homes can shift. And so it's still up for debate. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you it doesn't happen because I could be wrong. But I can tell you that there's a lot of people who suggest it's unlikely. And I'm okay with that, right? What I am most comfortable with is saying that the oil and gas industry, and I think I can speak for most of the professionals in my industry, do not mind environmental regulation. In fact, we sort of welcome it because it keeps mom and pop oil and gas service providers out of our industry who would be unable to afford the expenses that go into doing everything correctly. So we are above board and we really want to do things by the book, but you have these small companies that come in and cut corners and because they're cheaper, and those cut corners effectively tarnish our reputation as professionals in this industry. So those environmental regulations are difficult to comply with, but we always exceed them. And if you find that hard to believe, I have a backup just fact, and I have engineers that I work with. They're called wellhead integrity and chemical specialists, and their job is to make sure that the chemicals that we're using, which are very expensive, go directly to those perforations in the well and nowhere else. Like they're so expensive, we just simply couldn't afford to put it in your groundwater. We just wouldn't make any money. So they literally count it by the gallon, and they have loggers and sensors to make sure that that stuff's going where it needs to be, and they can x-ray the entire well to make sure there's no leaks or gaps. So we can't afford to contaminate your groundwater because we'd be sending chemicals that are very expensive to places they don't need to be. And the PR scandal and the fallout from messing up at that level, just the industry really can't sustain that. Everything that you ever heard about fracking in terms of how controversial it is well-founded in that it's based on things that happened about 18 to 25 years ago in the Northeast. So absolutely, fracking at one point in time was a practice, and people were not doing it correctly. But now it's an integral part of our energy economy, and we do it very responsibly. So that's what I know about that. All right. Moving on, we fracture the well. All the high pressure sand and water goes in the well. We got to bring it back to the surface so we can make money. It gets separated. The oil, the sand, and the water gets separated, and the oil gets put in these storage tanks on the location. It gets shipped to a compressor station about a mile away, which is on the right side of your screen. And they've got to get that oil up to those really high pressures that the pipelines are used to accepting. And then they can inject it into the pipeline and send it across the country. When you hear about midstream, that's everything that's happening between the drilling rig and the refinery. Right? Cool. So we'll talk about the last thing here. And one of the last things is transportation. It's getting the pipeline, the infrastructure, getting the oil there. If you've ever been passed by a guy who's like blowing black coal smoke out of his truck and probably isn't very friendly, and he looks like that, that's a pipeline welder truck, and he's out going to assemble these long pipelines that go across the country, right? So why are pipelines so important? Well, I call it the tale of two countries here. So we'll start with the Exxon Keystone pipeline. We've all heard about that. We don't really know what it is, but the idea is that in Canada, they have what's called tar sand oil, which is a really crummy, poor quality oil when you compare it to what we call light sweet crude. It's actually a term, sweet crude, which comes out of Texas and North Dakota and that type of thing, right? And all of our refineries in the world, in the country, with the exception of those that are at Port Arthur, are set up to handle this specific sweet crude oil, right? And the EPA and a lot of the regulations that go into making new refineries are so strict that it just doesn't make financial sense to build new refineries or retrofit other refineries to accept this Canadian oil. So what the Keystone Pipeline was trying to do is trying to get this really shitty oil to Port Arthur as quickly as possible to the refineries that could actually handle it and turn it into gasoline that you and I can use. So that's why it was super important at the time, was because Canada has all this oil, but they've got to ship it by rail and by truck to get it there, right? And the pipeline and made it much cheaper and much more accessible for the American energy market to accept that oil. So fast forward to today, we're in the situation where we need more oil, but the problem is that some decisions were made in the past that make that oil very difficult to just turn it on, right, and get it to the consumer as quickly as possible. Okay, but a much more dire situation, as we're seeing right now, is in the European energy, the European energy crisis. Let's take Germany, for example. They have a goal to be completely on renewable energy by 2035. And so what they did is they shut down their nuclear power plants and they shut down their coal burning power plants. And they said, hey, we're going to use natural gas. It's going to be great. And they started this new pipeline with Russia called Nord Stream 2. That's going to be on the right side of your screen. But okay. And the point here is that because they were so committed to getting on this renewable energy system and using natural gas as this transitionary energy source, they sort of puts them in bed with Russia, right? And so now that's why you haven't seen Germany send any weapons or any support to Ukraine, is because Russia can just turn that faucet off, right? And their consumers, people like you and me, they're heating their houses with Russian natural gas, right? And that's, so when we talk about pipelines, they're not just a big pipe in the ground. They're an artery to basically economic security and energy independence. So when we don't have them, we're really opening ourselves up to that vulnerability where we're beholden to like foreign actors like Iran and Saudi Arabia and Russia, and you've got our politicians asking them to increase production because we in North America can't. And the only political comment I'll make to that is, and I would ask anyone to consider, is a barrel of oil produced in Saudi any more harmful to the environment than a barrel of oil produced in Canada? The answer is no, but it's not, the optics aren't good, right, to approve pipelines here. And it just doesn't look good. So it's better a lot of people feel like it's just better to get the oil somewhere else because that's not our environment that we're working on. And that's a controversial statement, and I acknowledge that, but I just can't emphasize enough how important pipelines are to like what you and I will see at the gas pump, right? This slide, because it's really boring, and just basically say that if you see 9,000, you hear a lot of like sound bites that like there's 9,000 permits approved for drilling. That doesn't mean that there's 9,000 places that have oil, right? The energy industry is really beholden to the labor shortages that everyone else is seeing, and we're drilling as fast as we can, but we just don't have enough rigs or enough people. And lastly, I'll just give you my personal opinion on alternative renewable energy, and it's summarized in one sentence: like, absolutely stop fracking, just don't stop today. People have no idea how critical like the shale oil well reserves are to what they will pay for energy to heat their homes and especially to fill up their cars with gas, right? So if we were to stop fracking or really put some stiff regulations on that, it would be biblical impact to the consumer with what they would pay for gasoline, right? So they're a big fan of renewable energy. I just think that we need to talk about it responsibly. A lot of people get upset when about wind energy, but I think it's great. I think it's awesome. I mean, it's powering 90,000 homes across West Texas right now. However, it's subsidized by the government, which is there's nothing wrong with that. It's just irresponsible to say that it's the solution when it can't stand on its own without being helped, right? So it's absolutely creating a lot of energy, but it's not doing it on its own yet, and I hope that it does. And solar is awesome, but it produces energy exactly when you don't need it, which is in the middle of the day, not in the morning, not at night, or when we use that energy. So we need to invest money in batteries and way to store that. So alternative energies are awesome, and I really do believe in them. But we just have to understand that in the next 10 years, we're going to keep fracking. We're going to keep getting fossil fuels. We need that, but we need to do it responsibly and start looking to the future to get to those renewables. I'm all about it. So thanks for coming to my TED Talk. I'll take questions if you guys have any. Yeah, thanks for your time.
I've got a question, if you don't mind, David. So first of all, thank you. That is the most easily understood explanation I think I've ever heard of how people get oil out of the ground, period. So thank you for that.
Sure.
I think we're at a place now, and I think the Russian-Ukrainian conflict has really highlighted it in ways that have forced it to the forefront, that in all of our long-term planning for working towards things like renewable energy, our short gap solution was not sustainable in the current political climate and environment. So what are the things that you think in the next, say, 6 months would be most beneficial to the energy production industry to help normalize and bring down some of these prices at the pump that we're seeing?
I definitely think you're going to see about 25 cents increase in the next year. Like, I don't think we're out of it yet. I think it's actually going to get worse. Because I know that was kind of another question that I was preparing for. But as far as what we can do about it right now, I think that we're doing the very best we can in terms of just speaking for my industry. The consumer has really no recourse right now. The politicians, be it left, right, however you want to look at it, we are sort of the chickens are coming into roost, if you will. And what we're dealing with now is consequences and not really choices. Like, no choices that we can make now are really going to fix the supply of oil. And that's really what it comes down to. So if this is just a direct consequence of lack of pipelines, lack of like energy positive sort of legislation, which is fine. Like, that's what our representatives, the majority, have voted for. Maybe not us in Texas, maybe, but essentially the country has said, hey, I want more alternative energy. And right now we're just paying for that, right? And that's cool. Like, just know that like when we that there's this, it's just a supply issue, right? So as long as we're going to be pushing for these alternative things, buy Tesla. That's what I can tell you. That's going to be the best thing that you can do right now, is buy some vehicle that doesn't require a fossil fuel to propel it across the ground. Because other than that, there's not a lot we can do about it right now. It will get better. Like, I can show you graphs and charts, and I planned on it, but I was like, this is super boring. But everything indicates that supply is on the rise, and you're definitely going to see lower prices in the next 18 months. And with the summer coming up, it's not going to get much better. You're muted in case you're gonna say something. I don't know. Any other cool questions? I like that
I have
one.
a random question. The site you showed us that looked like a spider web, there were so many pipes. How many
Yeah.
people are normally on a site like running that?
Great question. About 18 people. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah, 18 to 30 people. It just depends. They run in 12-hour shifts. They'll run 21 days straight. They're 12-hour shifts. So they'll usually work 21 days straight. It actually ends up being like 15 hours awake, 15 to 16 hours, like, cause you have to travel there from the hotel. So like I usually work from like, I wake up at 3:30 in the morning, get to work by 6, and get home by 6, like get off at 6 p.m. and then you're in bed right around 5 p.m. So you just basically work, sleep, work, and like try to eat a little bit, but then you get about 7 days off. I don't, I get more days off than that, but yeah, it's about 21 days on, 7 days off. That's what they're doing these days.
And this is not the technical way to put it, but is there like one guy that is qualified to steer the thing? Like, if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
want to
he's
go
got a
straight-
directional. Yeah, he's a directional driller. He makes about $375,000 a year. You can always find who he is because he's got the nicest truck. That's no bullshit. Like literally, the company man, the superintendent, and the directional driller will always have the nicest trucks. It's like a tradition or something, or a competition, but you can literally guess whose truck is whose. Yeah.
I've got another one for you.
Okay.
What happens when a well's run dry? Like what happens with all the cement that you put in the ground?
Yeah. So what's called a P&A, a plug and abandon. So whenever you drill a well, you are legally beholden to it for its entire life, right? So what we will do is when that well stops producing, we'll service it, clean it out. We'll log it for the state, which means we'll run a magnetometer and an X-ray logger through it to make sure that the steel is in a good enough condition, doesn't need to be reworked or fixed. Because if it does, we'll have to fix that steel casing. But ultimately, they will fill the entire hole full of cement. Just be a big cement straw on the ground for the rest of eternity. A lot of those in the Dallas area right now. A lot of the Barnett Shale was really big back in the early 2000s. In fact, I fracked a well like outside of DFW on the overpass, like right next to the overpass on the south side there. Like I can't remember what the road is, Sarah could tell me, but like it's like, oh yeah, there's a Waffle House, and then I want a drilling rig. That's cool. Any other good questions? Sick. Well, I really appreciate y'all's time.
You did a great job, David.
Yeah,
Thanks.
I really learned a lot.
Oh, I'm glad you guys didn't think it was too boring.
Wish they taught us that in school.
Yeah. Well, I hope I didn't make it too political either, because I think that was not my goal at all. Yeah.
No, I thought you actually did a phenomenal job of balancing the politics, because you can't talk about this and not talk about politics.
Yeah. Well, we can stay on after, but before everyone goes, let's just end it with our 4-way test. Put it in the chat there in case anybody doesn't know it by now. So let's go. Number 1. Is it the truth?
The truth.
Number 2. Is it
Is
fair
it
to all
fair to all
concerned?
concerned?
Number 3.
Will it build
It will.
better
Better
friendships?
friendships.
Number 4. Will it be
Be
beneficial?
beneficial to all concerned.
Nice job, guys. I think we're getting better at that.
Wes, you're a mess.
Amazing.
I gotta go, but thanks, David. That was actually so informative. And this is like one meeting I will probably share the link to many people.
Absolutely.
Thank you, David.
Molly, when are you getting married?
Saturday.
What?
Yay! Can't wait to hear all about it.
So I will be in Jamaica starting next Monday.
Nice.
Heyo.
Jamaica's nice. It's real nice.
I'm pumped. I don't know why I'm at this meeting. Honestly, I have so much to do, so I should probably get off.
But you learned a lot.
If it wouldn't have been David, I wouldn't have came today, but I really wanted to watch this presentation.
That's pretty cool.
You
Thank
got
you.
fans, Gov.
Yeah, thanks for letting me like
Um,
guest in here. That was nice.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Katie,
Well,
you're
You're always welcome, Katie.
Likewise, David, don't be a stranger.
next.
Join our club.
Yeah.
Well,
Come
wait
to
a
you.
second. Sarah, you need to make the pitch. What are dues and what does it take to become a member for Katie and David? Sign them up.
Yeah, Katie, David, come to a few more meetings.
Okay.
Probably work that into my schedule.
Yeah, you want to
Okay.
meet with the Polish Rotary Club? Gonna be a good one.
Wait, what?
Put the interest form link in the chat.
We're gonna meet with our Polish Rotary Club that we're donating our money to.
I'm sorry. I thought you referred to yourselves as a Polish
No,
because you didn't meet in person.
I can say like one word in Polish.
Got it.
That's more than I can say.
Jump in. Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'm gonna roll too. See you guys.
Thanks,
See you,
David.
David. Thanks
Hey.
again.
Can somebody who's actually good at Facebook make like a post I can share with the link about Ukraine and donating? I'm not
Yeah,
very creative.
so-
Like some official.
I think that we were waiting on the PayPal link.
Okay.
Let me
The
talk
lane
about
dropped it in.
Andrew,
Yes.
give me your email address right here in the chat right now. I will send you.
Okay.
Yeah, but we do have a post, and we do have a PayPal link. So I think that what we're waiting on is just getting those things put together and posted to our social media.
All right. So if I put that PayPal link into the one I've already created, you'll be ready to go with that?
All we need is them together. So technically MFA could post those. I think she might have just been waiting for approval. Just the go ahead to post whatever. But what we would want to do is in Facebook, you can post a link attached to a photo. And Instagram, you can't really post a link. So what we'll want to do is post a link on our website. And I don't know who manages our website. Maybe it's also MFA. Delane might know more than me. I don't know anything about the social medias. So
Okay. Well, as soon as there is like an official social media post, I'll like start sharing and making things happen.
we'll try to
So-
send a message out to the whole club once that gets posted, just because everyone knows about it already. So they might be waiting to hear something about it. But Wes, yeah, I think that's the case. I think it's just the fact of getting it up on our social channels and getting it on our website.
All right. Well, good. I will. I'll do a couple things. I'll email Andrew. I'm going to send you a post that's already done. It doesn't have
Yeah,
a
we
link.
already have a post.
And then I'm going to finish the second post, that one that will have the PayPal link in it so people can contribute. Somebody else is going to have to figure out Facebook, Instagram, whatever.
Yeah.
So we'll take care of that. And
Sounds good.
And then we'll talk with Clayton when he gets his sunburn repaired from being down on the beach. And,
It's
how-
actually been cold the last couple of days. It
Oh,
was.
good.
I
Seriously,
did a
right.
5K.
Tim,
I did a
right.
5K on Saturday morning, and it was 28-degree wind chill.
Oh yeah, I was watching the players and they were wearing like toboggans in Florida.
It was.
I could
It
care
was
less.
cold. It was real cold.
I hope they freeze. It's outrageous that they're down on the beach, and So anyway,
Wait, so are we donating we don't do it to our PayPal, but wait till we get the Polish PayPal?
no.
We're
no.
going to send it. So once we get everything, all of the funds donated, we'll send it all to the Polish Rotary
okay.
Club via our account. So it'll be a bank transfer or a wire transfer or something like that.
Got it.
It's much better, I think. I think just for control, collect the money in our PayPal account. Okay,
Yeah.
it comes in.
Mhm.
Transfer,
Yeah, I agree.
transfers that money out of PayPal into the bank account, so it's real money, and then we wire that money from that bank to their bank.
Yeah. And if you guys do end up donating, anybody here, I think that it might count as a service. I think anything over $60 counts as a service project. I'd have to look at but don't forget to enter it in so that it's noted on your Rotary account.
Oh yeah, good call.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Wes. I'll text MFA and just see if she can post that with the link.
Oh, Sarah, one more thing. This man, his name is Kuba.
Yes.
Kuba says he's
I
gonna
gotta go,
be-
guys.
Thank
Catch
you.
y'all later.
He's going
Yeah.
to be in Quitman on Sunday, I believe. Okay,
Next
he can
Sunday?
meet on Sunday. Yeah, I think he said he could meet on Sunday. So,
Oh,
so it may be. Let's see what. Yeah,
I
it would
don't
be.
think that I can be there. I am working a conference in Australia. Technically it's online, but I'll need to be home for that. So I don't think that I'll be able to make it to meet with you.
It's the 26th, not the 19th.
Oh, the 26th, the Saturday.
Well, I said stand corrected. 27th and Sunday.
Yeah. I'll be flying out for a work conference. Sorry. Busy month.
You
I'll
are
be in
really
Miami
busy.
for a whole 8 days in April, so that'll be fun. So sorry, Wes. I can't make it.
I'll go meet with him, and if he comes to
Yeah.
Dallas, Dana and
But
I will.
hey, if you want to get him to do, if he speaks English and clearly, if we could just get him to do a brief, it could be 30 to 60 seconds of video just in portrait mode, like the shape of your phone, so that we could post it like he was talking to social media. I think it would be really great as an advertisement for what we're donating to. You know, he's saying, you know, my
Okay.
family's hosting. He can talk about what families are hosting or what they're going through, what that Rotary Club is trying to do to support them. And I think that would be a really great way to market additional donations.
All right, 60 seconds on his cell phone, speaking into the cell phone, send it to us. Talk
Yeah.
about his club.
Just like he's FaceTiming with someone. You know what I mean?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good idea.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'll talk to
Yeah.
him. Okay.
Cool. Thanks, guys. We'll talk
right.
soon.
See you tomorrow, Danny. Bye.
Oh, yeah.
I have as someone who doesn't, I forgot my video was still off. As someone who doesn't understand Zoom clearly, I'm curious if okay, wait, never mind. I'm about to answer my own question. I was curious if I left, if it would keep going. And I see now instead of a leave button, I have an end button. So that answers my question.
Oh, yeah.
We'll just need to make sure that those of us with the service Rotary accounts are all like co-hosts or whatever.
Yeah, so I think I found what the problem is, but I also think I found a better way to do it. So yeah.
Cool.
Thanks for fixing it for us, Delane.
Yeah, we'll have an updated invite by
Bye,
next time.
Bye. See you
Bye,
later.
y'all.